This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a new season of Adventures in Compliance. This season, we're going to take up the second set of 12 short stories published in the Strand Magazine in 1893 and 1894, which were collected in the book The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes was published in the United Kingdom by G. Loons and in the U.S. by Harper's and Brothers. It's the second collection featuring the consultative detective Sherlock Holmes. The Final Problem was published in this series, and that remains one of the top Sherlock Holmes stories of all time, as Doyle was determined to kill off Sherlock Holmes, his most famous character, due to not simply its popularity, but how Holmes in many ways had taken over the life of Doyle the writer. I hope you'll take this opportunity to not simply listen to this podcast series, but also to reread the stories in the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Today we begin an exploration of the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes with the story of Silver Blaze. It is, of course, one of 56 Sherlock Holmes short stories by Conan Doyle, and it's the first in the collection of the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. Today we take up the adventure of the Stockbroker's Clerk, one of the lesser-known Sherlock Holmes stories from the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, and take a look at it through the lens of investigative lessons learned. I know you'll enjoy it. The Adventure of the Stockbroker's Clerk was published in the Strand Magazine in March 1893. One of the interesting things about the world of Sherlock Holmes is the preponderance of people who believe a recent job offer is too good to be true, but then go ahead and take that job. That's a lot like the world now. And if you've ever been tempted by a Nigerian banker or a similar email scam, you understand those. In the world of Sherlock Holmes, as in the world of today, trying to get something for nothing was never good. So this story involves a young stockbroker named Hall Pycroft, and he is about to take a new position with a London-based firm, but instead he's tempted by an offer of management with a hardware distributor company being set up in France. Simply for accepting this offer, he'll be paid £100. The only caveat is that he should not yet resign his post in stockbroking. Holmes, who may be bored and back on his 7% solution of cocaine, agrees to take a look at this after Pycroft discusses it with him. So he and Watson and Pycroft set off to Birmingham, where they are to meet with, or Pycroft is to meet with his two employers, alleged twin brothers Harry and Arthur Pinner. The brothers, and this also arouses suspicion, are so identical that they even have a gold tooth in the same place. The trio arrive to discover Harry Pinter staring aghast at a newspaper article and preparing to kill himself. The story he is reading is about an attempted break-in at the very stockbroker's office where Pycroft expected to start work. It turns out that there are no twins, and Pinter is indeed only a only child, but he arranged for the break-in to be committed by an accomplice who would have started work at the company masquerading as Pycroft. However, something goes very awry, and although the accomplice did undertake and engage in the break-in, he was not alone. He was accompanied by his brother, and they killed a night watchman. Worse, For the miscreants, the police captured both of them, who swiftly revealed their identities, and now all three could be expected to hang. So for this story, I thought I would focus on some investigative lessons that you might draw from this little-known Sherlock Holmes story. First, attention to detail. As with all other Sherlock Holmes adventures, he relies on his remarkable attention to detail to piece together the puzzle. Holmes takes note of the oddity that Hall Pycroft is offered a high-paying job at a newly established firm in spite of a very difficult job market. It's the anomalies that you should focus on, whether you call them anomalies or red flags, but this was clearly one which piqued Holmes' attention. Number 2, understanding motivations. Sherlock Holmes understands that people usually have a reason for their actions. In this case, he is suspicious of the job offer that seems too good to be true, which leads him to probe further. Understanding motivations can provide a crucial context to interpret facts and clues. Number 3, connecting the dots. Holmes demonstrates his skill in making connections between the seemingly disparate pieces of information, as his suspicions are aroused by the similarity of the two stockbroking firms, the job offer, and the mysterious employer, Mr. Pinner himself. Number 4, disguise and deception. Holmes and Watson often use disguises and subterfuge to gather information without alerting people they are investigating. This approach provides an unexpected advantage, allowing them to observe and interact without revealing their true intentions. The world of data analytics and data monitoring certainly allows you as a chief compliance officer to do this on a regular basis. Number 5, patient observation. If there's one thing a CCO needs, it's patience, and Holmes exhibits a great deal of patience in his investigations. He knows that rushing things can lead to mistakes, so he waits for the right moment to act and to decide. And number 6, collaboration and teamwork. Despite their singular genius, or his singular genius, Holmes often relies on the help of others, especially Watson. In his collaborations with Watson's, it shows he values the opinions of his friend. This is certainly true for a chief compliance officer. You have to utilize a wide variety of other corporate skills, talents, and people in any investigation that you might do, from the smallest to the most important investigation. If you've enjoyed this episode, I hope you'll subscribe, rate, and review to Adventures in Compliance, wherever great podcasts are listened to, or perhaps even on YouTube. I also hope that you will take this opportunity to reread some of the great Conan Doyle short stories found in the collected works, the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. If you'd like to take a deep dive into a particular short story, I'd love to visit with you. So please give me a shout at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. Adventures in Compliance is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network. I hope you'll join us again next week, where we take up the adventure of the Gloria Scott. This is Tom Fox. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Adventures in Compliance.